Welcome to the Orange Flag Podcast. There's a lot of sports car and IndyCar stuff to discuss, but we can't do anything other than start by remembering Kyle Busch. I'm Nicole.
I'm Aries.
I'm Austin. Unfortunately, Kyle Busch, a legend of NASCAR, did pass away on May 21st. Obviously, support to his family, his kids, and all of his competitors and friends during this very unfortunate, sad time.
Yeah, we had to start the show with that, just as people who follow NASCAR. But now I guess for what you probably are here to hear us talk about, the rumor that Porsche may be re-entering WEC, but in a really weird way that I'm just going to come out and say it, given what I know about the program, this makes no sense. Lawrence Vantor's contract makes it make no sense. There is no way that Porsche is going to allow him, or McLaren is going to allow him, quite frankly, to race in WEC as a not factory McLaren driver, but a factory Porsche driver, while there's a Porsche racing in WEC. This, honestly, if this is true, it's likely the end of Lawrence Vantor's loan. Because Porsche, this isn't IMSA, where I could go, if I was rich, and buy a 963 from Porsche and have zero support from Porsche to run that car. This is WEC. And in WEC, you have to be a factory effort. The only way you can be an independent privateer team is if there is a two-car factory effort already. I think people are forgetting that, because I had people arguing that point with me. Oh, this will be privateer. Privateer does not exist in modern WEC. In the Modern World Endurance Championship, the regulations do not allow a privateer team. They do if it's a third car. Yes, technically the yellow Ferrari is a privateer car.
Yeah, we would still have Proton.
Yes, exactly. Proton would still be in WEC this year if you could have a privateer car.
I think the closest resemblance of this argument is you had the Toyota guys racing with Caddy and IMSA, but also Toyota isn't in IMSA.
Right, so, and I went back and I looked up who did what. So, not only is Toyota not in IMSA, but the year that Brendan Hartley did essentially what Larry is going to do next year, he was driving with Acura. So, Acura is not in WEC, and Toyota is not in IMSA. So, yes, Hartley did Daytona and Sebring last year in Cadillac, but that's still just a bit more of a one-off situation. Lawrence Vantor is a Porsche factory driver for 2027. Porsche is not going to allow one of their factory drivers to directly compete against their factory team. So either Larry's McLaren contract is gone, absolutely done for 2027, on hold until 2028, or this Proton thing is wishful thinking. My other issue is Roger Penske has been absolutely adamant about getting back to Le Mans with Porsche. So why would Porsche suddenly just decide, forget that, forget the guy that got us our, driver's championship, forget the guy that got us 4th and 2nd at Le Mans, let's go with this team that hasn't proven that they can run our car effectively. If this was, hey, JDC Miller is trying to do a factory WEC effort, I might buy that, honestly.
I'd buy that more than
I would buy it more than Proton.
I'd buy it more than Proton.
Yeah, Christian Reed absolutely wants to get back into WEC. No doubt. Absolutely no doubt. I do not think that this currently is the way that, and hey, maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe Porsche has negotiated something with Larry's contract that will make this all work, but I just don't see it happening.
There's just too many, like, hoops to jump through, it feels like.
No,
Yeah.
a lot of what's been rumored regarding this proton situation, it falls at the first hurdle because what we just said about privateers. I don't even think Proton would even be able to like fund it because given the way they operate, I feel like it would be asking too much. So they're always sure they run pretty much everywhere, but they're always associating themselves with something like the WEC program in LMGT3. It's Ford. Their ELMS thingy this year is with Ford as well. So there's always something bigger that they have to partner with to either a bronze driver or a manufacturer to be able to achieve that. And like Porsche is, well, unless they've been scheming behind our backs this whole time and making us all look stupid, I don't see them doing that with Proton.
The only thing that would make
The-
sense is like the earlier rumors at the very beginning before this WEC season.
Oh,
if
Roger
it
and
was
Christian?
going to be Roger and Christian doing a duo
Yeah.
thing.
I would be so on board with that. The problem is Porsche has basically let their top talent walk at this point. And they've let them walk because they're not returning to WEC. You know? Like, they just... Lawrence Vantor would not have gone to another LMDH. Now, Kevin, I think, is a different situation. I think he wants to be in an LMH. I think he thinks that is his best and only chance to win Le Mans. Which, looking at history, he's right. Could be proved wrong next month. But I do not think that Lawrence Vantor would be walking away from Porsche to go to another LMDH manufacturer, to go to a brand new program that he's going to have to build from the ground up if Porsche was still going to be in WEC. You know, I don't think that Felipe Nasser would be looking at other programs. I don't think Matt Campbell would be looking at other programs, you know? Who is Proton even going to use? People are like, oh, it won't be factory drivers. It's a factory effort. It has to be a factory effort. Like, I get that people want more privateers. Come watch IMSA if you want privateers, man. Like, I'm sorry, but WEC is not set up for privateers right now, and this just isn't gonna be a privateer situation.
Nope. They killed it when first off they killed it with their stupid 2 cars per manufacturer rule, and then they killed it again with their silly, oh, it needs to be 2 cars run by the same team. So like, hello.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
and
I fully believe that PPM could run one car and Proton could run another car, and then you have 2 Porsches. But it has to be 2 cars from one team with factory support.
Essentially.
Yes.
You know, like,
really,
it's frustrating.
The only reason we have the yellow Ferrari is Kubica. So, like, once he leaves, it feels like we're just gonna lose another privateer. So, like,
probably.
Really, privateers in WEC, they, like, rely on one very specific thing, and once that one very specific thing from that privateer is gone, they're gone. So, like, we're losing privateers. And
And the only way that I could see Porsche doing this is if PPM ceases to exist at the end of the year entirely. So if they withdraw from IMSA and they do not return to WEC, and Porsche does want to continue using the 963, so they now are no longer, they're not having to fund the IMSA program, so they do have the money to fund what they need to of the WEC program. That is the only thing. And I don't see that happening. Like, people, oh, they're going to be so upset with BOP that they're going to leave. Like, unless finances get worse, I don't see PPM leaving IMSA. You know, they have won Daytona 3 times in a row. Like, that doesn't really feel like a program that's just gonna be like, hey, we're not here anymore, unless Porsche pull the plug. I don't think it's gonna come from Roger Penske's side.
Definitely not. Oh, well, we're talking about Roger Penske, for crying out loud.
I know.
Also, just saying, also in general, like, another point. IMSA races at, his speedway that he owns,
Yeah.
too. So I would think, like, Roger would maybe want to support a team that, like, races at his speedway.
And I mean, there's the rumor of him potentially for 2028 wanting to partner with Ford to bring them to IMSA, but Ford has been pretty adamant that they don't intend to come to IMSA before the unified regs, if the unified regs happen.
Yeah.
And I could see Porsche fully withdrawing to wait for the unified regs, because why keep pouring money and effort into a chassis that you're not going to be able to use, into, there's rumors that the entire spec of the Bosch hybrid might change to make it more in line with the rear wheel drive part of the LMH hybrids. It seems like front axle hybrid is dead for the unified regs, but Bosch can be made to make their spec LMDH hybrid. So I guess if you don't know, the hybrid in the LMDH is an off-the-shelf part. All of them have the exact same part. It is rear-wheel drive. It's made by Bosch. It's obviously built to a spec, and the LMH cars are not built that same way. So there have been rumors, online of course, but that Bosch might be made to make a slightly closer to the LMH spec hybrid. So if that happens again, why keep your program alive? Especially like with a brand like Porsche, where if they know it's going to be you can build your own to spec, they may want to go a little more LMH. Why not? I mean, if it's going to be cost controlled by being spec, why not build your own?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, all this goes to the age-old question since the 963 was announced. Why in the world was that not an LMH from the start? I asked Porsche, we don't know. I'm also surprised that the Ford rumors are still going around, because I thought these were pretty much nuked last year.
It's because people want it to be true. The same thing with Genesis. The same thing with McLaren. People want to see these brands race in the US, race in IMSA, especially with Ford. It is an American brand. People want to see them in IMSA, and there is no proof they're ever going to be in IMSA, even after the unified regs. Like, at least Genesis has said our plan is to show up. McLaren and Ford have both said our plan is not to show up.
Yep.
That's what's crazy to me, is like, people are grasping so hard at this, like, it's gonna be Ford, and like, yes, obviously Roger Penske runs Ford engines in his Cup cars, in his NASCAR team. That doesn't mean he's gonna run the Ford program.
Which, like, also, there's even been rumors around Ford in NASCAR, too. And, what's going to go on with them, if a lot of teams might be switching away from Ford in NASCAR.
I keep on hearing that Penske may go to Toyota.
Yeah. So,
like straight up, I saw that online the other day, that Penske may be looking at a swap to Toyota, which I don't know why they would do that. But
Same here.
It would make more sense for it to be Chevy because they use Chevy in. But I straight up saw conversations about Toyota on Twitter the other day.
I've always said I think Penske in NASCAR should switch to Chevy because of uniformity for your IndyCar to be Chevy and your NASCAR program to be Chevy. Just to me,
Good point.
Makes more sense.
Good point.
If Roger's taking over any IMSA program, if Porsche leaves, he should kick Wayne Taylor out.
Yeah.
You know, he's already got that relationship with General Motors. Kick Wayne Taylor out. Wayne Taylor has proven that they cannot run a team with this, at least with the V Series R. Obviously, they've been not terrible in the past, but they cannot successfully run this V Series R. Now, that's not to say that Penske would be able to, but a huge part of Porsche Penske Motorsport's success is the Penske aspect of it. The entire pit crew, the entire mechanical team, everything except the engineers are Penske guys.
Yeah.
The only Porsche people in that organization are like the engineers and a few of the media people. Like, that is a Penske team as much as the IndyCar team or the NASCAR team is. And that is where that success comes from. I mean, you look at what PPM does. They win these races on pit strategy. They win these races on executing better pit stops than everybody else. And those are all guys whose checks are from Penske. They are Penske employees. So shout out to all my buddies who I'm talking about right now.
I mean, if you want to get like uber specific,
see you in Detroit.
If you want to get super specific, you can use the example of JD, who does strategy in IndyCar.
Travis Law, too. Jonathan Duguid and Travis Law were both calling strategy in the Indy 500 yesterday, and will be calling strategy in Detroit on both cars this weekend. So Travis Law is the IMSA Car 7 strategist, as well as David Malukas strategist. And then Jonathan Duguid is Car 6's strategist, as well as Joseph Newgarden's strategist. So, like, those are two top guys. The president of Penske is calling strategy for IndyCar and IMSA. Like, you know, that's these, as much as it pains me to say these are Penske cars, as much as, if not more than, they are Porsche cars. From the operational standpoint. And I do think that means whichever team they go to, they will make it more successful. If they took over from Wayne Taylor Racing, they would make the V Series R more successful. You know?
Yeah. It's always been funny to me, at least, that Penske is like across 3 different manufacturers, because you've got them with Porsche and then Ford and then Chevy. It's always been funny to me, especially because they do have in a way to be with one if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I like I said, like I started this out with, I don't think that this Proton rumor has any legs beyond Christian Reed would love to be back in the World Endurance Championship in a hypercar. You know?
I mean, if I was him, I would too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he's not an incompetent team owner. It's just, it is hard to compete when you don't have all of the, I guess, like, systems in place that PPM has, you know? Like, PPM had a lot more in place by being the factory team for the past 3 years than Proton did.
Yep. Continuing on with the, like, you know, PPM is Penske. PPM is at the 500 with Penske.
So Matt Campbell, Julian Andlauer, Felipe Nasser, and Lauren Heinrich were at the Indy 500 as guests of Team Penske.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they were. And it was really, the 7 was there for like the whole week. Matt came like day of the 500. So that's why like all of the content leading up for the week was the 7. It wasn't that Matt was just like in hiding in the dark or something. But yeah, so they made like a whole bunch of content. They had like the 7 go to the museum. Nasser did a helmet swap with Newgarden. Did I forget Joseph's name? Yes.
Yes.
They had them all in like the pits for the guys too. Matt was obviously in Scotty Max because the Oceanas have to stick together. And then Julian was doing interviews in French. So
yeah, I mean, I think it seemed like they had as many as possible, like the people who were in Newgarden's car for his Daytona win there to support him, and then also had this year's Daytona winners because Penske did a whole thing with the Borg Warner and the Daytona trophy. So It was definitely a, ego trip for Roger Penske, which, I mean, it's his building, so he can have as much of an ego trip as he wants to, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I was like, I zoomed in on the helmet swap because like I wanted to read what the messages were. And of course, they both wrote about the Daytona win that they did together. So even that was really about the win they had together shared.
I think very little of this felt like it was about them going to the Indy 500, and it had a lot more to do with the fact that Joseph won Daytona with one of Roger's other teams.
Yeah. The only thing that made it like less Joseph-y, I guess, was like who, like the grid, like who they were with before the race started. It was like Julian was with David, Matt did stuff with like Scotty Mac, and then the others were kind of with Joseph. So like for certain things like being in the pits and stuff, it wasn't all Joseph, but it definitely for a lot of content stuff was Joseph.
The overall reasoning behind it. I mean, we also don't know that they weren't at everybody's pit box, at everybody's grid stall, and those are just the ones they happened to post.
Yeah. It's just like from what we've seen online, they at least did go to the other pits, and like the grid walk and stuff were at other cars and stuff. That's really what I mean. Like the only thing we saw that wasn't like Joseph centric.
And then obviously, we've been talking about rumors, so let's feed another one. Let's add fuel to the fire. Felipe Nasser and Joseph Newgarden did a cheeky helmet swap. So this obviously means Nasser is going to the 2 car next year. What else? Don't take this seriously, people, but yeah.
Take it completely seriously because that rumor's been coming from the IndyCar side and matches up with potential rumors of either Nasser leaving PPM or PPM ceasing to exist. So,
and also, literally on the broadcast themselves, they were like, Nasser really wants to do IndyCar. Like, even they were feeding into
Will
it themselves.
Buxton is the one who basically started this rumor at Long Beach. Like, this is for once not us being dumb and starting rumors about where we think our drivers might go. This is an actual rumor that came from real media within this space. Will Buxton said this on the broadcast at Long Beach that there's the possibility of Nasser going to the 2-car. I mean, people are even saying, I think that they're expecting it to be, Miles Rowe or Santino Ferrucci or someone, not Nasser, but people are talking about Joseph, being on his way out. So that's,
if you want my silly rumor, I came up with a silly one. So we can do my silly rumor if you want my silly rumor. My silly rumor, because somebody said something about Matt being there online, and I was like, here's my silly rumor. They got rid of an Australian when, Will Power left. They need a new one to bring back, they have an American. If Joseph leaves, they still have an American. The way they get their old lineup back of, American, Australian, New Zealand, you get Matt. Matt goes to IndyCar. That's your replacement.
Has Matt ever given any indication that he wants to do IndyCar?
No, which is why I said it's a silly one.
I would love to see Kevin do the 500. I'd love to see Kevin in IndyCar. It's unrealistic.
That's why Kevin I said it's a silly rumor. That's why I said silly rumor.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was realistic. I said it was silly.
Yeah. Now, Kevin and Larry did not go. Based on Larry's social media, I'm pretty sure he's testing the McLaren this week or this weekend. Because he's, at some secret undisclosed location and needed to figure out how to watch the Indy 500 from a place that wasn't his home in Europe.
And he also posted a flight itinerary for the month and next month, and it was I'm going to a super secret location, so he basically said it without saying it.
Right. And then Kevin, just as Kevin does, went home to be with his family. So that's great. Love that for him. I'm honestly glad that they didn't force everybody on a weekend off, because they don't get that many of those. That they didn't force everybody to the 500. It seems like Felipe and Julian like spending as much time as they can in the US. And it seems like Kevin and Larry prefer not to. So it's good to see that they're, kind of giving the drivers that freedom to do what they want to do.
Yeah. And then Lauren I feel like he can't stay in one place for too long. It feels like Lauren just always has to be moving and going to a different country. So.
Yeah. That's being established pretty much.
Yeah,
One of us.
Yep.
Yes. So. But. Speaking of family, Girl Dad won the Indy 500. I have determined the Speedway loves girl dads, because we went from Pelot winning with his 1-year-old baby girl to now Felix winning with his few weeks old baby girl. So read into that all you want.
Yeah, it was really good to see, after so long, Felix Rosenqvist get not only another win, but an Indy 500 win. When was his last win?
Been a while.
It was with Ganassi, wasn't it? So...
Yeah.
If it was with Ganassi,
2020?
I think it was... Maybe. I was about to ask, was it pre-Aero
Let me look that up, because
I was I know his last, So, Aero McLaren, I know he got literally his last race with Aero McLaren, he got pole.
Right, but as far as...
And then he's gotten poles with MSR since. But...
Yeah. Hold on, let's see. Yeah. Road America in 2020.
Yeah. I was he didn't win with Aero McLaren, so...
It was with Ganassi.
Yeah.
In 2020 was his last win prior to this. So, 6 years later, to finally get his second win, and for it to be the Indy 500 is just amazing, and it really feels like it just shows like patience and just waiting your turn. And specifically with the Indy 500, everybody, the speedway will choose the winner. You don't really have a say in it. You can just put yourself in as good of a position. Like something happened with David's car on the final stretch. Like there is no reason that he should have lost that much of a lead.
Exactly.
And that was truly like such a great example of the speedway just choosing a winner.
Yeah.
Like
I think also my favorite thing was Felix's radio after
yes.
winning too, because like the first thing he's like, I wish Stella and my wife could be here right now. Stella's his baby girl. Like his first comments were about his family and like
Yeah.
his baby is so little. Obviously they couldn't
like
be
2
there, so
weeks
they were
old.
at home. So it was just nice to hear that be like his first thought crossing that finish line was his family.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what this means, but I don't know. Maybe if you are an IndyCar driver and you want to win the 2027 Indy 500, maybe you need to get busy in the next 2 months so you can have a child by the time the 500 is around.
And
That seems
maybe
to be
like
trending.
at some point have been in some sort of contract with Arrow McLaren, because everybody, like the whole front row, the 2 guys that were duking it out at the end for the win, all had at some point an Arrow McLaren contract.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
I mean, I will say one thing that really impressed me about Malukas was like one of the first things he said was something along the lines of, well, I guess the speedway decided it wasn't my turn yet.
Yes.
And that humility, that understanding that it's not all about you, just speaking about Arrow McLaren, compare that to the things Pato O'Ward says, and why he's been close but no cigar so many times, in my opinion. I mean, he talks about when I win the Indy 500. Like it's a given. And honestly, that bothers me.
Oh,
like,
yes.
You don't even hear Scott Dixon say when I win the next one, or Will Power say when I win the next one. Joseph Newgarden, none of them say, if I am so lucky as to win the Indy 500 again. But then you got Pato out here. Yeah, when I win the Indy 500, it's going to feel so sweet because of everything I've been through. Dude.
No.
Get yourself right with the speedway, because I can only imagine you're pissing the speedway off with this.
Oh, yeah. Also, speaking of Arrow McLaren, a lot of people, so like Lando came to IMS afterwards, and a lot of people were like, why is Lando congratulating Felix? Maybe because they used to be teammates?
Also, people's confusion about where, I guess, Canada and Montreal is in comparison. How did he get there? Did he teleport? It's like a 2-hour flight.
It's not that
maybe a 3-hour flight from Montreal to Indianapolis, and like maybe less if he flies charter. Like if he gets helicoptered from place to place, or like the airport in Montreal is not far from the track, and the airport in Indianapolis is like next to the track. So, that was hilarious.
Geography.
Right?
Yes.
Not everybody's good at geography. It's okay.
I think everyone forgot that the race that happened for F1 this week was not in Monaco.
Wasn't in Monaco? Yeah. One thing that I thought was really cool about Lando being there was he wasn't just there like for Zach to parade him around, and he mentioned the fact that, he's obviously expressed interest in getting back into endurance racing. And you do need to remember, it is back into endurance racing. Lando is a very accomplished sports car driver. He's done Daytona. He's not bad. He wants to do Le Mans. He has said he wants to do Le Mans. it sounds like he's got a little bit of an interest in going for the Triple Crown. And he's got whichever version of the Triple Crown you want to say, he's got both pieces of the Formula One part. So,
yeah,
true.
Yeah.
That is really cool. And honestly, it makes me pay attention to Lando. It made me sit up straight. When I read that, I was like, okay, Lando, you have my attention now.
It's one of the reasons I like Lando, why Lando was my driver is because he's a sports car guy. So, he did sports cars. So, hearing him wanting to get back into it has made me excited. Hearing him want to get into the Triple Crown is making me even more excited.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting because, for whatever reason, people forget that Fernando Alonso has finished the Indy 500 because people seem to think that there are no active drivers that have at least finished all 3 races. Obviously, Fernando has only won 2 of them, but he finished the Indy 500. I mean, that feels like at this point, that's almost like the modern twist on the Triple Crown, is you go out there and you at least finish the 3 races. And I guess, that's something that maybe some F1 drivers can go and take a look at.
I just want to see how the Speedway feels about the Triple Crown, because I think we've established how the Speedway feels about the double.
Yeah.
Indeed.
That's definitely seems like the Speedway's not too into the double.
She is not.
Honestly, the Speedway didn't seem too into letting the race happen this year, so it's probably honestly a good thing that Kat didn't finish the race, because she wouldn't have made it to Charlotte.
I mean, Charlotte also didn't seem in the mood to do racing either.
That's true. That is true. It did not.
Which, honestly, I don't blame Charlotte for what's been happening in her world.
Yeah.
With Kyle Busch, I too would be like, I don't want to do racing right now. So.
But yeah, the 500, I feel like, has gotten to the point where people are almost comparing it now, I guess because Formula One fans have discovered IndyCar. They're comparing it to Abu Dhabi in 2021. I saw that on the timeline so much, and it's like, guys, do you not understand the difference with an oval and how cautions and how red flags are called on ovals?
That was so frustrating. I mean, I'm pretty sure we joked last week about how we saw timeline warfare regarding Nürburgring. We did see some timeline and group chat warfare regarding the whole let's red flag the race with 8 laps to go because we had a big accident. Well, that was a big accident. Let's be real here.
Massive accident.
Massive.
Also, let's face it, nobody would want to see the Indy 500 finish under yellow. I feel like I wouldn't, at least. So I backed them up on that decision.
Also, I feel like there's a lot of things that factor into yellow versus red, and I feel like you have to remember those things. And I definitely think one of the aspects that does go into that is how many laps you have left of a race, especially for the 500. Also, in this case, it was taking him a while to get out of the car. The car was on fire. It was scattered all over the track. For how many laps we had left, if they were going
it wasn't going to clear.
It wasn't going to be able
to clear Kyle Collette's car before the race ended. There were 8 laps to go when they red flagged it. Clearing that car was absolutely going to take more than 8 laps. A lap at IMS is under a minute. It took way more than 8 minutes to clear. How long was the red flag? A lot more than 8 minutes. So, do you really want... if you think that this was a, awful manufactured finish, okay, whatever. The other issue is you can't tack on extra laps. It is the Indianapolis 500-mile race. I mean, then again, the Rolex 24 hours at Daytona did not run for 24 hours. Other races have, in fact, not run, like, you know,
The
24-hour
Charlotte
races have not run
600 was
24
not
hours.
the Charlotte.
Right, it was the 575.
Yeah, the Coca-Cola 600 was not the Coca-Cola 600. So.
But the Indy 500 will always be, barring some extraordinary circumstance, a 500-mile race, you know? Like, I thought it was really funny, Scott Dixon's wife, Emma, when it started raining, she's like, just call the race right now,
There's
because
lightning.
Scott was in the lead. Like,
There's lightning. I
oh
think
my gosh, look,
call
it's
the
raining,
race.
there's lightning, there's a thunderstorm coming, call the race right now, you know, which, had there been massive storms coming in, they would have done that, and people would have, you know, called it, I guarantee, people would have called it a manufactured, oh, if it had been, you know, whoever, Kyle Collette in the lead, they wouldn't have done that. They're giving it to Ganassi because it's Ganassi, which, speaking of giving things to Ganassi, learn how to read a technical report before you say that a penalty is not equal to another penalty. Callum Ilott had 3 separate technical infringements last year that resulted in a harsher penalty, including a infringement that was basically his team telling IndyCar officiating to F off. So that
I will say,
very likely played a large role in the disqualification, because IndyCar has always been you can look at Detroit last year with Ferrucci's car. You can look at I think Rossi had a similar infringement a few years ago. There is a long history in IndyCar of unintentional technical infringements not leading to disqualifications, barring external circumstances. Last year's Ilott situation had additional circumstances beyond the slight wear, which is what it sounds like. It sounds like that aspect, the end plate violation, was wear because of, you know, basically a parts failure on both cars. Very similar, as I pointed out, to what happened to Tower at Daytona with, you know, them getting disqualified. So it is something that happens in other series. But it's most similar to what happened to Santino Ferrucci at Detroit. And he did not have his podium taken away. He did not have his finish removed. He had points docked overall, and he had a fine. It is a very similar situation to that, not so similar to Callum Ilott's situation.
Yeah. I will say, though, I guess the way I more think of things like this, even with Santino, I think no matter what, if your car is determined to have a parts failure that can give you an advantage, it should be more than just 5 points and a fine, but that's just me. I think that should have been the case in Santino's and the other cases too. I don't think 5 points and a fine is enough in my eyes.
I think as long as they are consistent, so if next week at Detroit there's another similar parts failure that results in a similar technical infringement, as long as it's 5 points and a fine, and that is the new standard, cool. It's like a pit lane speed violation is always a drive-through penalty. You know that, right? As long as there is consistency in the stewarding, as long as there is consistency from this independent officiating board, I don't think anyone's going to have an issue. The problem is this is the first year with this independent officiating board, so they're having to make up new standards race by race. Now, yes, if sometime later in the season there is another similar, very, very similar, or the same technical infringement, and they don't give the same, if they disqualify that person, if they strip all their points, that's a massive issue. That is a huge issue, and that should be called out, and that should be addressed. But yeah, I think this is a case of the independent officiating crew setting a new standard. And maybe they did take what happened with Santino as the most recent example of it and said, okay, that's the standard. because that is the most recent technical infringement parts failure, right? Is Detroit last year with Santino? Can anyone remember anything more recent than that?
No,
Because what
that
I'm
I
thinking
can.
is before that, he's
Right,
like,
right.
what?
The 500 last year. Like, it's not a super common thing, but I could really see them, okay, so what should we do? Should we disqualify him? Should we dock him? Let's see what we did, or what they did, what IndyCar did the most recent time. Okay, Santino, Detroit last year, points and a fine. Okay, points and a fine is the new standard. Now, I wish IndyCar would come out and say that. I wish they would be transparent about this decision making, because I think if they came out and said, based on the precedent set in Detroit with the number 14 AJ Foyt car, people would be like, okay, cool. But yeah, it feels like it came out of nowhere.
It feels like it came out of nowhere, and I guess also it feels, at least in my mind, 5 points is barely anything of a punishment.
But if that's what they did in Detroit, then that's the standard. Like, yes, we can agree all that. I think that in Formula One, if they push another car off track, they shouldn't get 5 seconds added to the pit stop. They should get a drive-through penalty. I mean, we can argue what we think the appropriateness of a penalty is until the sun comes up tomorrow. But if the precedent set is docking points, not stripping a finish, and fining the team, then I think that's where we need to go move forward. Like I said, it's a massive issue if they are not consistent with that in the future.
Yeah. I think also a lot of other people, at least what I saw, was comparing it also to the Penske issue at the 500, where everyone got moved to the back after qualifying.
Which, again, different situation. That's in qualifying. That, like, we're comparing the most comparable situation is Ferrucci. You know, that exactly, that was consistent when Kyle Collette was found to have an illegal modification, and somebody else was too. Was found to have an illegal modification in qualifying. He was moved to the back of the grid. Exact same as what happened with Penske. So you've got like for like with the most recent violations.
Yeah. I just know, like, what I saw online was people using...
Oh no, there people
Callum
online
and
just want to be
Penske.
mad.
Yeah.
People online just want to be mad always.
Yeah, I also think it's also using those two because they happened at the 500. So,
Yes.
like, it's
Right, and we
using
need to look,
the closest you've got in the sense of in the same place.
and we need to look at the 500 as just another IndyCar race, because as far as officiating goes, it is just another IndyCar race. For us, for the drivers, it's something more, but as far as officiating goes, it is just another race. And it needs to be just another race. You should not get penalized more harshly because it's the Indy 500, in my opinion.
Yeah. Even points-wise, I was surprised when they stopped offering double points for the 500. I know this is completely unrelated, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised.
I think it makes sense, though, to, like, if you're wanting it to be equal when it comes to penalties and everything like that, you can't have it also then be more points, in my mind. Like, if you're making it more on points, then also, in my eyes, then penalties need to be stronger.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have one or the other.
One thing that definitely got people, especially Alexander Rossi, upset online, was people being, I guess, critical of the fact that he had help getting out of the car. And, I mean, for him to race, he had to have passed the unaided extraction test. I personally completely understand why he would want to, like, as somebody who has passed medical clearance physicals and then still wanted someone to carry me to the start line of a cross-country race, I understand not wanting to put additional stress on an injury. You know, just because he wanted to get that last bit so he didn't need to jump out of the car. Because if you watch these guys get out of these cars, They're not stepping out like you do out of your mid-sized sedan. They climb up and they jump out. That is such a risk for additional injury.
I had, actually, when I was doing rowing, I had this exact injury in the sense that I did the same exact injury that he did to his foot to my foot, and I competed on it. Was it maybe not the smartest decision? Maybe. But I passed medical, so it was okay. Did it hurt like crazy? Yes. But it was fine. I think I know the reason I felt like I said something kind of in relation. The first time I watched him get out of the car, it felt like it looked like the man couldn't move at all, which was why I was like, ah! And then the second time I watched it, I was like, wait, no, that's not it at all. I think for a lot of people, at least what I've seen, it was like, oh, the first time we watched it, it looked like he like couldn't move and like anything. So people were like, what happened if he like stopped in an area and had no help? And then a lot of people watched it again a second time and were like, oh, it actually doesn't look as bad as I remember it the first time.
He got out like 90% out of the car. He got up, he stood on his seat, he started climbing out, and then he had people basically get his right leg out of the car so as to not have to jump. I mean, it was...
And I think it was just
a lot less dramatic than I think people wanted it to be.
And I think it was also just one of those cases of like the first time watching it, it was like so many things going on that like you thought you saw it one way, and then you watch it the second time and you're like, oh, actually not as bad as I remember it when I was watching it like during the race. And I think a lot of that is just like there's so much going on in the race that like you can't quite remember it exactly. And also a lot of it was like people that were in person, so like it looked different to them in person from the angle they were seeing versus then the angle that they saw later online. So yeah. Obviously we already touched on Kyle Busch passing, but thought we would also kind of touch on how not just NASCAR, but also the motorsports world in general paid tribute to Kyle. For those that don't know, Kyle Busch used to have a truck team. It's now Spire. That's why he raced with Spire. So a lot of drivers actually that are currently on the Cup grid at one point did race for Kyle. So a lot of those drivers were like telling stories about how Kyle helped them get to even be in Cups, in the Cup series. So there was a lot of just like stories throughout the broadcast, throughout the week, really, from those drivers, but also just his competitors in general about the kind of guy Kyle was, but also how beneficial he was to getting guys to where they are, and how some of them wouldn't even be able to have the careers that they had without Kyle. And another thing, a lot of people were wondering why all the FanFest driver signings were basically canceled for this week. You have to remember, when it comes to motorsports, it may seem very big to us, but for the driver community, it's very small. And all of these guys knew Kyle very well, very closely. And so they kind of, all the teams really voiced that as their reason for like canceling FanFest. And just so that these drivers could kind of experience all the emotions and not have to worry about putting on a certain face for fans. And apparently also a lot of them found out about Kyle passing in the middle of driver sightings that they were already at too, which is crazy. So the kind of biggest thing that came out of this, though, is a lot of people were wondering what was going to happen to the 8, because the original announcement was the 8 was still going to race. It was just going to be a different driver in the car. It then later was announced the 8 is going to be retired, but the team's going to be keeping the 8 so that his son Brexton can use the 8 in NASCAR when he
his 11-year-old
eventually
son,
races.
who may or may not even want to continue racing after. I am disgusted by the pressure that NASCAR, that the teams, that the fans are putting on this kid. And this could be an incredibly unpopular opinion, but I'm insanely passionate about this point. It is disgusting to expect an 11-year-old to be forced to carry on his father's legacy. And people are comparing this to Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was a grown man who was racing Cup in the race where his father died. This is an 11-year-old kid. My 10-year-old nephew is here at a family party with us right now. I could not imagine putting that sort of pressure on him. Or I guess he's my cousin's son, but still, like, you know, I'll call him my nephew because that's basically how I view them. But, like, you know, it's like putting that much pressure on a kid that young. Like, not only, hey, you're gonna have to carry on Kyle Busch, a legend of stock car racing's legacy, but you're 11. You will make it to NASCAR Cup because we've reserved a number for you. What if he doesn't want to race? What if he wants to be an accountant now? Like, he is a child. This is not okay, and we need to stop doing it.
Also, just because Brexton is racing now doesn't mean Brexton maybe wants to race later in life. And also, right now, I guess I would also get it more if, like, he was using the 8 now. He's using 18.
He's using the 18.
He's not even using the 8. So, like,
I get it. He has a development contract with RCR.
Yes.
And RCR holds the 8. But, I don't know. I don't like the whole thing. Obviously, I just went on a rant about it.
At least from the side of NASCAR Twitter that I'm on, which is a lot of Kyle fans, a lot of people were like, why are we pressuring an 11-year-old? And I was like, happy to at least see other people agreeing.
See, I didn't see any of that. All I saw was can't wait to see Brexton in the Cup Series. Can't wait to see Brexton in the 8.
Yeah, I saw a decent amount of people being like, why are we pressuring a child? And I was like, I'm happy to see other people are also thinking about why are we pressuring an 11-year-old child. Because it's weird. Let the 11-year-old child be, he's grieving his father right now. Like, I think the last thing he's thinking about is if he's going to be racing in cups down the line and if he wants to drive with the number 8.
Yeah, perhaps this, I could be talking complete waffle, and this could be completely unrelated, but I couldn't help but trace a bit of a parallel to the Sebastian and Oliver Weldon boys situation, because I'm not sure about Oliver Weldon right now, because he's the youngest, but I know Sebastian, the oldest, who's 17 right now, like, he's already being backed by essentially the TWG group, the Andretti team, what's essentially the Andretti team. So I know that team runs car number 26. They run essentially the same livery for his car where he races. So I wonder if, like, that's not also a sort of pressure that's being put on him to carry his own father's legacy. Like, obviously they are
without a doubt.
Yes.
They're in different stages of their careers, but still, it's something that felt very similar to me, and I couldn't help but mention it.
The difference is that Sebastian Weldon has said he wants to carry on his father's legacy, and Brexton Busch has not said that yet. We need to give this kid a minute to say he wants to do this before we start announcing that we're reserving a number in the NASCAR Cup Series for him. Like, just...
For me, I don't know. I've always thought it's icky to, like, pressure kids to carry on their parents' legacies just because at that place in time they're doing the same thing their parent was in some way. They could want to change their mind. And they should be allowed to.
So much of what Brexton did, racing-wise, was with Kyle. He may never want to, and I don't know, like, he hasn't said anything yet, again, because he's 11, and his father, his hero, his everything just died. Like, Kyle Busch was only a couple of years older than me. I cannot imagine what his family is going through, honestly.
Especially, at least for me, his daughter, who is at an age where, like, she's not going to really remember her dad that much when she's older because she's so young right now. And for me, that's so sad. Like,
it is.
It's devastating what this family is having to go through, but already pressuring this family who hasn't even really had a week to mourn him to be doing something specific is disgusting. One driver who really, I think for me, put it the best way was Connor. He said, like, Rexton has, like, all the uncles he could ever have for the rest of his life now, and if he wants to keep racing, we're gonna be all behind him 100% for his career. Like, that was, like, seeing Connor, who is a child in his own right, like, he's still a young guy, like, seeing him say that was just, I thought it was nice to see.
Connor is closer in age to Brexton than he was to Kyle.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, that is an incredible thing for him to say, like, hey, we're gonna look out for this kid.
Yeah. You could also just tell how, like, even, like, Larson's kids going to check on Brexton, like, you can just tell how everyone was feeling for them.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very emotional weekend and just an awful thing to have. Yeah, and with that, thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Orange Flag Pod. Nicole is at Nicole on Racing. Austin is at Austin Trackside. And Aries is at Aries_Alpenglow.
Stay orange.